Blog Talk Radio.
Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot, oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girls. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here's your host, paranormal researcher Patricia Baker, on the one, the only Supernatural Girls.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girls Radio. I'm your host, Patricia Baker. I'm here with my co-host, all the way from Tucson, Patricia Kirkman. PK, how you doing tonight?
Absolutely fabulous. We had a 70-degree day.
70.
I just thought I'd let you know that and rub it in a little bit.
Well, here we are, and it is February 3rd, and we just got done shoveling 10 feet. It felt like 10 feet. 1 complete foot of snow. It was way too much.
Well, you'll have to come and visit in the wintertime.
I think I need a break from this. Definitely.
I think you do, too. It's about time.
Yes. So tell us, what's going on with the numbers? What are we up against now?
Well, firstly, we're in a month of major issues because it deals with our spiritual side, but it also deals with fears and fantasies. And I'll make you a bet nobody's sleeping well because that's what the month is all about. The inability to sleep, a lot of dreaming, a lot of things going on, shall we say bumps in the night, ideas and thoughts going on. But our spiritual side is really revving up this month. The thing that does pose a bit of a problem is that because the universal year itself is all about quick change, quick fix, quick turnover, and this month says slow and easy, let's take a look at things, let's review, redo, that's all wonderful, except we're now in a retrograde. So anything to do with electronics and communication, that's going to tend to be going backwards or blowing up in our face, depending on what part of it is. So we've got the year pushing us at a speed and the month saying, slow down, take a look at it, and don't trust. And it's hard to trust right now because you're not able to sleep. Keep a pad and paper next to your bed. You're going to get ideas and thoughts, and it will take a few days before some of it just really resonates with you. But there's so many things that are going to be going on, and the most part is it's a great time for any type of learning or teaching. But like I said, in the retrograde, communications can get a little sticky, to say the least. And it's just know that anything to do with communication can get a little dicey. And anything to do with electronics can stop, but don't worry about it. Try after the retrograde. You may find some of it still works, and it's not the need to replace it. But when you're working with that type of thing, also take a look at the fact that you're going to have a lot of ideas. Don't push anything. Let it take its time. Let it come to the surface, and then reevaluate what you really want to do with it. I think you'll find that you're going to have
also a time,
very good ideas.
PK, when we're going to have a lot revealed to us, things that have been hidden.
Secrets are going to be made known, the good, the bad, and the ugly. No question about that. But the most important thing to do, take some time to meditate. Spend some time by or around water. It's kind of hard where I live, but even a bathtub will work or a bucket of water will work. But really, spending some time by and or around water, it's going to be so rejuvenating. It's going to help a lot. But you're going to get ideas in your dreams. That's why I want you to keep the pad of paper next to the bed. You'd be surprised what you may come up with.
That's a great idea.
Retrograde will be
I always support
until
that.
the 20th of February. But also, don't forget our cars have a lot of electronics on it these days and computers and such. So if you start having some issues, don't panic. Check it out first before you go into a tailspin. How's that for nice month that we've got.
Well, I know you, as you mentioned, there's going to be some challenges not being able to trust a lot of what's going on around us, a lot of secrets being revealed, which might be a very good thing because it's hard to build a firm foundation on lies. So
That's
it's
true.
important to know what the truth is. It's important to have all of that exposed. And I'll tell you what, the other thing that I've noticed, and I know you have too, the UFO sightings have gone way up. So we're seeing sightings and people reporting sightings that have, I mean, just in the hundreds and I think thousands in the last few months. And it's very exciting to see. And I just want to mention next week we have Daryl, the alien hunter. Daryl Sims is joining us next week. He's been on a couple of times, and he's got some new stuff he's going to be talking about with us. So can't wait to have him on talking more about this and how much he thinks is going to be revealed by the aliens themselves and how much by our government that's been hiding it from us. So it'll be a very interesting conversation with Daryl next week. So I know we have a lot of great stories, too, on our Facebook page, so make sure you go there, give us a like and a follow, because every time I find something interesting, I know I put it up there so you guys can see it first. So just keep checking.
That's good. You're supposed to do that. We're supposed to be first.
That's right.
My story, I'm sticking with it.
And I even found one, a triangle ship over New York City that somebody filmed. And, of course, when it's a triangle ship, we have to ask, is it ours or theirs, because you really don't know. So we have our own triangle ships, apparently, which one of our guests told us all about. And there is a photo of that, actually a video, on our Facebook page, so make sure to take a look. We're also going to be doing a little bit more with health, since that's a prime issue, and people are very concerned about their health these days, as well they should be. So we're going to be having some interesting guests coming on to talk about different treatments. I'm not talking about the virus now necessarily. I'm just talking about in general. So it will help you going forward in this year. And tonight we've got a great guest.
And especially this month where it's a month of learning and teaching and sharing. So
yes,
pay attention.
We need to do all of that.
Definitely.
That's what we do best. We're so good at sharing the most interesting, the most leading edge. And tonight, that's one of the things that we're going to be talking about with a leading edge healer and abundance expert. We have Sherry Anshara with us tonight. So she is going to be sharing her life story and how she got into all of this, which is fascinating, as well as her Anshara Method of accelerated healing, where you can actually find in 10 minutes or less the root cause of your symptoms and clear them out of the way so you'll be able to clear out old traumas, unwanted limitations, negative thought patterns, toxic behavior, many of which have imprinted in your body since conception. So this transformative process, according to Sherry, we're going to hear about it, creates a healing cellular wave from your inside to your outside world so that you can become truly healthy and happy in your personal and professional relationships and enjoy a success-filled life. Well, PK, do you want some of that?
I want all of that. Definitely.
Me too. And I know our audience does as well. So, Sherry, welcome to the show.
Sherry before it. She's just fabulous. So I can't wait for our guests to be able to listen to her tonight.
Yes. Well, here she is. So, Sherry, come on and join us tonight.
Well, I am absolutely delighted because everything you have mentioned, without being a know-it-all, I have had every one of those experiences multiple times, and every subject you came across is fabulous.
Wow. Well, tell us how this all got started for you.
Well, the minute the sperm hit the egg, I knew I was in, and I went, oh, shit. Oh, I'm only kidding. But I'm
That's
not.
That's quite a level of consciousness.
Yes, really. At 3 years old, I honestly knew the majority of the stuff that I knew it at 3 years old. I know that sounds so outrageous, but I did. And you know what? You know how people say they survived their parents or childhood? Actually, my mother survived me. Isn't that fabulous?
That is.
So I was always communicating what people call ETs. I never saw them as extraterrestrials. I never saw anything extra about them at all, except they had better technology. I'm not kidding. But and when I was 3, I told my mother, you know what? Remember when I was Jewish and lived in New York City? She said, we're Catholic. We live in Detroit. And she didn't know where I got that vocabulary.
And so this was your past life memory. Yeah.
Pardon? Well, because they're actually, the truth is, I break all the belief systems. So I just ask you, like I ask all my clients, what's the first letter of the word belief? B. First letter of the word system. So I call it the duality BS bullshit programs. And so we just keep perpetuating that over. So what I do is I assist clients to get into their time continuum, not past life, because it's really going on right now in the body. And so, God, I can't even tell you, it's too numerous to count anymore how many clients I've assisted to get that information from them for the reason, not like, oh, I was this, or I got killed, or I was hung. Like, who cares? You know, like, that's so boring. But what did you do? And I found so many of them on Google or Wikipedia, not because they were famous, but the timelines would come up, and we would find them. And sometimes they look the same, sometimes not, but the similarity in what they're interested in was so unique. And that was the part. So it's a time. So I call it time continuum accessibility. I do not call it a past life, because it is, you are accessing your continuum at your cellular level that has all the information. And information means in form at your ion or cellular level. So you are your own Encyclopedia Britannica.
Well, I like that a lot. And so give us some examples of people you've worked with where you've been able to help them clear their trauma, their pain, their illness. Give us some examples of that.
Okay, well, pain is really emotion, and pain in the body is the body's attempt to get your attention, whoever the you is. And so I actually have just co-authored a book with someone, but I've been doing this for over 30 years, is able to assist people to get to the origination point of the illness, the disease, or whatever. So I actually have pictures. Some of my clients have actually let go of stage 4 cancer, or they've gotten off of drugs, or out of depression, or out of anxiety, because first I'm able to express to them the emotional foundation. So I'm going to say something that's going to sound really snotty right now, and if I do, I'm so happy. Anyway, there is now the new buzzword. You know how they come along with the buzzwords? So there has been a buzzword, especially in psychology and psychiatry, which really is just unconscionable. I'm talking about emotional intelligence. I will promise you, I don't care if you stood with a machine gun and told me to stop saying that. There is not 1 ounce, not 1 speck, not 1 molecule, not 1 cell, not 1 particle of intelligence and emotions. It is the emotional body that makes us sick. And this is the fabulousness about it. So I'm going to ask you to vision that sideways figure 8 of duality, the infinity sign.
Right.
So it's, oops, I did it again. Oops, I did it again. Oops, I'm really stupid. I did it again. Isn't that fabulous? Now take that symbol and put it upright. It's the sign of the hourglass. Ooh, oh no, not again. And now take that hourglass, infinity sign right-sided up, and extend it down again. This is what I teach. A down and down and down, and then twist it. Guess what? It's the symbol of DNA. So the DNA is the matrix of duality, right and wrong, good or bad, my way or the highway, another time, whatever it is. And that's how we get trapped. And we do this through our left computer brain, that goes to the right male side. The manifest, manufacturing, manifesting, and manipulating side. So when people get to that core, the cells go to the origination cell, the perfect cell, and the cancer goes out of the body or the depression goes out of the computer brain. And that is how we are able to do it in 10 minutes or less, is to identify. I don't give it to them. I could, but I'm not going to. But I will guide them, and they can get it themselves. That's when it's really empowering or powerful. Isn't that cool?
It is,
Amazing.
because we do have the ability to heal ourselves, but we do get caught in some of these darker places. So what has happened, for example, can you give us some personal examples of people that you've worked with and tell us the progression of how they got rid of whatever they needed to get rid of?
Yes, there was a client of mine that had the size of, it must have been a grapefruit size cancer in her right breast, the male manifesting side, manipulating side, that never was nurtured. And that's why women a lot get breast cancer, and men are getting, it's about not nurturing the emotional aspect. And within a 1-hour session, now this is the best part, I did not know this was happening, but they were trying to trick me in some ways. So they did a method of it's like a thermography, and they did it before she came in and after, which I didn't know. But in that 1 hour, getting to the core of why, it went down to the size of less than a golf ball, from a grapefruit size in 1 hour.
That's amazing.
My goodness.
But see, that's how smart the body is. There was another gal that came many years ago, and she was in the hospital. Her sister happens to be one of my dear friends, and she had gangrene in her leg from diabetes, and they were going to cut off her leg, and she was pretty overweight. But what would have happened if they cut off her leg? So her sister took her out of the hospital, brought her to me, and in 4 1-hour sessions, and I have pictures of it, her leg actually started to become the color of the skin it was supposed to be, and all that black stuff in the skin really began to heal. That's only 4 hours. So what would have happened if she had had her leg cut off? So when I'm supporting someone, I don't heal anybody. I don't even like to be called a healer, but I support people. And so they are able to do it because that is the infinite intelligence and intellect that is in the body. It is not in the brain. The brain can't heal anything because we're only using half a brain. The left brain goes to the right side. So when people come to me and they'll say, "Sure, I'm half out of my mind," and I go, "Your head's up your ass and you're half-assed too. Isn't that fabulous? Now let's start going."
Right. Well, that is amazing that you were able to help her, and she was able to reverse the gangrene and save her own leg. I mean, that's just phenomenal.
It is. I have the pictures.
It's great, and it is certainly possible for each and every one of us to learn this technique. And so how long does it normally take for you to teach someone how to do this?
It just really all depends. And you know what? I'm glad you brought this up because I have formed a nonprofit. I haven't done anything with it yet, and I just talked to a few people in the last week or so. I'm actually looking to bring a core group together to start a teaching institute through this method that I developed. And I developed it over 30 years ago from an accident of mine. And that's why I'm so passionate. And I would love to leave that as a legacy to train the trainers and train the facilitators. So thank you for bringing that up. But this is what happened. In 1991, I was in an automobile accident, and there was a setup to it, a perfect setup. It was, I don't have to go into those details, but anyway, I ended up 15 feet underwater, upside down in the Connecticut River, in a drunk person's car that wasn't even in there. I was in the car. It wasn't even a Kennedy, I'll have to say that. But anyway, humor is the best. And so I had a broken neck, a broken back, smashed head, and a brain out of place. But the best part of this, my brain was out of place, and I didn't know it. And it totally took me somewhere else. And that's when I ended up on a ship. It was wonderful. I cannot go down a tunnel because the tunnel is duality. And so I always say, if there's as a caveat, if there's someone at the end of the tunnel waiting for me, if they don't have a job, I'm going to beat the crap out of them. So they better not. I never went down the tunnel because that really is the birth canal. You go out in duality and you come back in duality. Now remember, talking about duality in 91 and cellular memory in my first book, that was outrageous. But anyway, so I had dire predictions. Broken back, broken neck, smashed head. We didn't even know my brain was out of place. And so I'm laying in the hospital, and they're saying to me, that this is what my life's going to be like, and, and I was always very active and did, extraordinary things. I was really happy with some of the crazy things that I did. Flew airplanes and produced air shows and worked on the farm, did a lot of stuff. But anyway, I was laying there, and I thought, you know what, this is stupid. If I cut myself, that cut's going to heal, whether I put antibiotics on it or not. It'll do it. And sometimes it scars, and sometimes it doesn't. So that's when I clicked that there is an intelligence and intellect in the body. So after a week in the hospital, I called a cab, discharged myself. The doctors were having a fit. I took a cab like an hour and a half to the nearest airport and flew back to Michigan, where I was from. And it was painful, but I said, I am going to figure this out. And that's how it got started, really.
So you began your own healing process after this very, very serious accident. And
yes.
It sounds absolutely horrible, but still somewhere you decided that you were going to take this on and heal yourself.
Yes, and I didn't do this. I didn't have that moment I'm going to heal the world. No, I never had that at all. But in the process, because my brain is out of place, thank God, it just changed everything. However, I lost everything. And I was doing pretty darn good, let me tell you, really good. And really, really, really good. But I lost everything. And in 97, I ended up in Arizona with my last $50 and didn't really know anybody. And subsequently, I found out my brain was out of place. But here's the kicker. I end up being studied at the University of Arizona under Dr. Gary Schwartz's group. And so I was a lab rat for a week because I was recommended to them by someone. And so they took it upon themselves, and they said, okay. So at the end of the week, they go, Sherry, you're a genius. I go, yeah, and you guys are dummies. My brains are out of place. Thank you very much for cooperating cellular memory, and we all laughed.
You keep referring to your brain being out of place, and I don't know if I understand that. In fact, I can tell you I don't. What was the actual diagnosis regarding your brain?
Well, if you look in the x-rays, like the brain where it's supposed to be, the stems and all that are supposed to be in a certain position in the skull. Mine isn't.
And this was because of the accident?
It's actually forward. Pardon? Because of the accident, it's actually forward. And that was the second head injury I had. That was the second one. And then about 3 years ago, I had a third head injury. Is that fabulous or what? And every time I did,
I think it's or what.
I just kept this is it kept expanding. It was like, this is ridiculous. So in the meantime, in this lifetime, I've had 5 near-death experiences. And it's not about the death, it was the life, 5 near-life experiences. So those were my vacations. And I'm telling you, I had the best time, remember all of it. But then I have to throw in one funny thing. About 3-4 months ago, one of our neighbors went ballistic, and it was late at night, and I missed being shot in the head by 10 minutes. So I called my friends, and I said, you know what, I've had 5 near-death experiences. I can't even get shot.
Oh, my gosh. What in the world was going on in your neighborhood?
No, this is a fabulous neighborhood. It's just that he was going ballistic and whatever. So I have a bullet hole in my door, but we're waiting for them to redo. I have an unusual door. But isn't that funny? But what I would look at is why. You can't change the what of something until you get to the why, and that's the fork in the road. You can either refork yourself and go back through that trauma drama of the duality, or you can take a new path, a new avenue, a new street, a new way. And that's all I have done, is I always love to go the newness way. I am not interested in repeating duality or being caught in that matrix that is run in the left computer brain.
And you always seem to have a positive attitude despite some of these traumatic things that have happened, where other people might sink into depression or feel like a victim. It sounds like you keep seeing it as an opportunity.
I do. I see it. It doesn't mean that I don't get pissy sometimes, because believe me, I do. But I don't go into that because I look at. Here's an example because of what I teach. I teach non-duality, and so we have been taught. This is a, for instance, to answer the question. So people will say that that we are reflections of each other. Well, I thought that was the stupidest thing I ever heard of, because a reflection has no mass. So now I get up in the morning and I'm an idiot. So now I got to go to the bank or the grocery store, draw someone to me that acts like an idiot, and I go, oh, I'm an idiot. There's a reflection. Why drag somebody into it? Because life's a projection. So I can get up and say to myself, you know what, if I'm going to be an idiot today, why would I involve anybody else? That's ridiculous. And so life is a projection. And so I use humor a lot because it is funny in some ways. And no matter how tragic it is, and believe me, I am going to get my Academy Award for the most trauma dramas in one lifetime as a comedy. And if I don't, someone is going to have hell to pay. Because I'm not kidding you. So it's looking at what is it that I'm projecting. And sometimes I have beaten the crap out of my clients in the most loving, unconditional acceptance. See, we've been taught unconditional love. It doesn't work in duality, but unconditional acceptance does. So I'll go back to my experience in 91 when I met what I call the 12 Wise Guys, these fabulous beings. And I'm telling you, this is the East Coast. They use that word that rhymes in duck all the time. That's part of their vocabulary. And believe me, I was dropping F-bombs all over the place going, I am not getting back into that body that's in that car because I can see it. It's not working for me. And they were really unconditionally accepting, and they said, but you created this contract. I'm going, what contract? What contract are you talking about? And that's when I really got clear that contracts are why in duality we get caught up in these ridiculous relationships that we call relationships. This is not judging, because I've worked with, parents and, couples, but they have to relate to themselves first. That is the relationship that must be clear first with your own self. And so I'm pretty clear about myself. Doesn't mean I can't get pissy or aggravated, but I'm very clear about myself. And I have a Sherryism. What I say makes my day, and what I say can make or break somebody else's day. Because that's the projection.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Now, what you're reminding me of is actually Tina Turner. And I know most people do know her story, which she was in a horribly physically abusive relationship with Ike, and it was just terrible for her. But when she went to leave the relationship, she got stuck with all of this debt. I mean, just a mountain of debt that he had racked up, she became responsible for. And one of the things that really struck me as so important is she said she never, ever thought of herself as a victim in any of it. So.
Nope. And I never did either.
Really, that's what I'm getting to. Is exactly that. Is that different. You have the same mindset that you're not a victim. Tina Turner went on to pay off every dime of the debt and, of course, become a major superstar in her own right. So there's a lot to be said about what you're talking about tonight with everybody, not being a victim, seeing the opportunity in everything so that you keep moving forward. And it makes a lot of sense.
It is, and in all walks of life. You were talking about extraterrestrials. I'm sorry, I can't call them extra. I don't see anything extra about them. I am like the bottom line non-duality girl, and that's what I teach. And because I've had all these experiences, I am very discerning. Just because somebody has a better technology does not make them smarter. It doesn't. So when you were talking about the ships, Oh, my God. You know why we're seeing more ships? Because people are being more aware that they are. Because the fact is, you can't see something unless you allow yourself to be conscious of it. That's why they're seeing more. They've always been there. Well, I mean, our DNA is affected by the interlopers. I'm actually writing a book. I have 38 chapters, a glossary, and soon to be done this year. It's been taking me a little longer, but I actually wrote in the first chapter, or the first page of the book, if you're looking for scientific proof, if you're looking that this has to be proven, blah, 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 don't read this book. Don't waste your time. It's absolutely the truth. Because when I spoke about cellular memory, I was writing from the future for the future, because then a few years later they had the transplants, and then they began to recognize it. So this book I'm writing on DNA is going to blow people's pop stands, and I will tell you that some of the people won't like it. It's going to be very uncomfortable, and it has to do with what's going on now. So I'm going to give you an example. You know, when somebody comes out of the sky and we're going to make them gods, they're not. Bird shit comes out of the sky. I told you, I'm real practical in the bottom line. So let's go back to World War II, and in Borneo, they fly over Borneo in C-47s. They're dropping down soldiers with, their parachutes and all that, and food and jeeps. When they went back, to make a long story short, in the 50s, and they were worshiping the gods that came out of the sky. So if one of those ships showed up, everybody'd be down on their knees to these gods. They're not. They have better technology, just like the guys that were in C-47s. We're praying to somebody that isn't a god. And if they were that great, then how come the captain didn't come out? How come the leader of the band didn't come out? No, they're still floating around the airplane or the ship. Same thing. Isn't that amazing? That has opened so many of my clients' eyes.
Well, yeah, I can understand that. So in the experiences that you've had with ETs, let's call them aliens for a better term for what you're describing, what have you found? Who have you found? Have you found different races?
I told you.
Do you find,
and this is
do you
what
have
I
favorites?
do. These are
do you have some that
now.
you're not happy with? I mean, tell us more about all of them.
Yes, absolutely. It's called discernment. This is no joke. My friends, my close clients know this. So this is how, like people will say they're channelers. I'm not dissing channelers, but you have to know what is the consciousness of the channelers. Here's an example. This is like 10 years ago. On my property, in my bedroom, I have like a bedroom and a sitting room, and no one is allowed in there. I don't care who it is. Anybody is allowed in there. I'm going to kill them. That's myspace.com. But anywhere on the property you can go. I don't care who it is. So I was awakened one morning, and these beings are in my bedroom. I sat up, and I go, obviously you didn't get the fucking memo. Sorry, I had to say that. That's what I said. And I felt some fear. Fear is lack of information. And so I stood up and I said, you know what, my physical human body is having some sort of a fear reaction, Act 1, Scene 2, and my consciousness is not afraid of you. So this is the deal. You come back in 3 days, I will adjust my resonance. Resonance is the key, not frequency and vibration. They're byproducts of anything. So I said, I will match you so we can have a clear conversation. But the other thing is, do not come back in my bedroom. This is off limits. That's all there is to that. And I said, and I would be happy to chat with you. And they came back, and we had the most delightful conversation. But who was in charge of this experience? Not in control. Who was in charge? Me.
You were. Right.
And did I set the ground level? Absolutely. I set the ground rules.
Wow.
And
what
I
a difference
think
that makes.
Yeah, that's so important, because we've talked about this, haven't we, PK, on the show quite a bit, about alien interaction with humans and who's in charge. And unfortunately, most people get stuck in their fear, and they lose charge of the situation quickly.
Totally. And it's that fear And if somebody tells me fear is false evidence of real, please, your audience, I'm going to reach out to you and smack you over the head with a skillet. Fear is lack of information. And the more information you have, you have all the facts. You know, when my clients come to me as the medical intuitive part of me, and they'll say, well, you know, should I get this? Yes, let's get it. I have had more people send me MRIs, CT scans, X-rays, and I've looked at them. You know, I haven't been trained in that, but because I'm a medical intuitive and I can see inside people's bodies, I read them all the time. Anybody can really, but see, I'm open and I don't have any fear. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't do that. No, that's ridiculous. And that's how I'm able to assist them, because the more information we have, and information means inform at your ion or cellular level. And so I don't care if they show up, whatever form they're in, I am in charge and I am the power. They cannot control me, because that's the con of the troll in the left computer brain. I mean, I'm giving nuggets today because but the funny part of it is I've had some really amazing experiences, even the ones that are not so nice. But they knew where I stood, and they knew that they could not do anything. What are they going to do?
That's
Nothing.
the question. Yeah, and I know a lot of people
They're not going to do anything.
Experiences of being, you know, experimented on or whatever. But again, it's like, who is in charge in these things? Where did they get permission to do that kind of thing with human beings? And I think the first step is exactly what you described.
I don't mean to interrupt you. They did it because it's infused in that DNA. So I'm going to tell you some of the stuff in my book, that some of the, most of it, the dysfunction, the relationships, the wars, the fighting, that is in that double helix, because it was imprinted not only by the Nibirians, called the Anunnaki, which is just means astronaut in Sumerian, or by the Pleiadians. They're no smarter. It's still duality. They're still fighting with each other. The Pleiadians hate the reptiles. Here, I'll give you a little history lesson. The reptiles came through their wormhole bazillion years ago, and they brought duality into this universe. And so it wasn't just the Anunnaki, it was the Pleiadians, the Cirrus beings, and now for how many hundreds, thousands of years, the reptiles, they have manipulated the human gene pool in the human body. And that's why they get in line. They just get in line up, go to the concentration camps, get in line, get your shots, get in line, do this, get in line, do that. All run through the left computer brain, and they know that. Wow, isn't it fabulous?
Yeah, and it's similar to what we've read about in the Castaneda books of long ago, from the 70s, where his shaman mentor, Don Juan Matus, described what the ancient shamans saw and how we all had been imprinted with, or he described it, we all have these second minds that are constantly dividing us and feeding off us. We're also on the food chain. And that's what the old shamans saw.
We are the food chain.
So when they talk about this,
I'm not.
Well, one of the things that they mentioned, which is very similar to what you talked about at the beginning of the show, is emotional management, is that once we get caught in a fear loop or in any emotional loop, no matter what it is, they feed off of that. So there is a key to bringing balance to our own energy field so that can't happen anymore. And these things lose interest because they can't feed off of us, and off they go. So the ancient shamans really knew a lot about what you're talking about. Unfortunately, a lot of their lineage has died off.
But I teach it. I have been teaching this for over 30 years. I teach it how. Matter of fact, 18 years ago, I was invited to a conference for quantum physicists. Of course, I was the outer circle. And I was talking to some of the physicists, and a couple were funny. And I said to them, matter of fact, one of them I connected with, and because of, computer glitches, and I lost his email. But 18 years ago, it's almost 19 years ago, I said, you know what, if you get, this is like a month later. I emailed them and I said, you know what, if you get conscious, you don't require the DNA. I'm going to throw that out to your audience because I know some people that don't have the DNA, that if you get rid of this DNA, you become conscious and they can't control you anymore, the kind of the troll. And guess what? He emails me back and he said, Sherry, I'm at an international conference with physicists, and this Russian physicist just proposed the same thing you did on the day I got your email. He goes, I know you're not a physicist. I know. I went, I know, honey, but I'm really well connected. And that's a fact. This DNA, you don't require it. It is duality. And it can be dissolved by becoming conscious. And that is actually what I've been teaching for over 30 years. I have step by step, and it works. It absolutely works because I know some people that have been tested and they don't have any, but we're just quietly, loudly letting it out. Isn't that fabulous?
So what you're teaching is this disengagement from that particular, what you call DNA, or what others would call an alien mind that's feeding off us, or the matrix. It has many names. And what
exactly.
We're seeing
it's the
here,
same thing. It's the same thing. I teach wordology is your biology, and though we might speak the same language in whatever language, we're really not, because it's interpretation. And what I teach is not interpretation, it's facts, your own facts. Doesn't have to be my facts, but your own facts. And that's why we are now in depopulation. Let me count thy ways. Can I put a plug in here for a minute?
Go ahead.
Well, next Wednesday, bi-monthly, on Eventbrite, because I got thrown off of Facebook, in Eventbrite I do Insider Secrets of the Shift at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And I know it's the time of your radio show, though. But I, people that I can even send them the link after. But I am actually giving very specific facts. And if they check it out, they will find that everything I've been saying for over 30 years are factual. I don't do conjecture. I don't do another belief system. It's finding out the facts. So in the idea of healing, which is addressing the issues in your tissues, is we get to the facts. I actually would be happy to share this with you. I wrote an article for a very famous pediatrician almost 4 years ago. And here is a simple example. I'm going to give you two of them. One, a lady came, and she had spent, I'm quoting her, this has nothing to do with me, she had spent over $200,000 over a year in therapy. They gave her drug treatments, they did all shock treatments, everything. This was her issue in her tissues. She was afraid of needles, and they couldn't get her out of it, and they finally just told her she was nuts. Less than an hour session with me. You know why she was afraid of needles? It was her age group. Her mother attempted to abort her with knitting needles in the 50s. When that came to her, she called her mother and she said, please, I'm not blaming you, because they never had a relationship. And her mother said, that's the truth. I didn't want you and I didn't want to be pregnant. That is cellular memory that was cellular memorized over by that fear and threat. And so head therapy, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it like it is, it doesn't work. Because we keep doing the same thing, telling the same story over and over and over again. And to validate that, which is ridiculous, they invented emotional intelligence. There isn't any intelligence in emotions. I mean, there just isn't. And so there's others where I talk to babies in the womb, and this is why they're aborting, because I've been talking about this since 2002. I noticed, I call them new kids on the block, that they have a God particle. It is, I call it the Akira Zananda. You can call it, I don't care if you call it Whippy Zip, but they're different children. And that's why they're now being aborted at birth, because the people in charge that aren't people in charge of this planet are killing them because they carry that resonance of consciousness that is non-duality, and that's why they're killing them, because resonance is the key. Resonance is the key to either being conscious, or resonance is the key to be stuck in the duality BS programs.
So it sounds like
that was a lot.
Yes, and it sounds like you are looking at the world similarly to what PK and I see today. We're seeing the same kinds of things. That this conscious versus unconsciousness, the light versus darkness. And it is very difficult at this time, in our country especially, for people to come together. It's just not happening, and I don't see it happening anytime soon. So it is an important time, and there are choices that are being made. And you talk about there's no emotional intelligence, but there needs to be emotional management, and that's what we're not seeing also. Because
that's what I teach.
Emotions run wild and run over other people, or be weaponized to use against other people is not their intention in terms of what creation wanted. So there's a lot to be learned, and it sounds like in your system you give some lessons in that and how to manage that.
Well, it's not only managing it, it's dumping it. It's getting rid of it. That's what power is, but they have to do it individually. And everybody's waiting for somebody else to do it.
Please, because if you could be a little more specific, I think people would find that helpful when you talk about just getting rid of it. You can't get rid of emotion. It's there. So how do you manage it, or how do you work with it? Okay,
you can get rid of emotions. I sound like I'm emotional. It's just I'm so passionate and excited. Okay, let's do it. Can I do a fear story?
Yeah.
I'll do a fear story. And this is way back when I was in the corporate world. And I had to go into a very difficult area, Elizabeth, New Jersey, on a Friday night at 9 o'clock. And go down the street. I had to deliver some product to a client. And I said I would do it. So I go in. Now, I'm driving through. Now, there is a gang. It doesn't matter what kind of gang it is, right? There's a gang. And I am laughing to myself going, wow, this is fantastic that I created this. And so they could have stripped my car. I could have been sitting there on nothing. And so I drive through this gang, and they're yelling at me and all this stuff and hooting and hollering. You know, I have a suit on. You know, I could have been, the undercover cops or something because I have a suit on. And so I roll down the window. I drive by. I stick my arm out of the window. I give them the finger. And I'm yelling, blah, 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 and whatever, and I drive. And they start laughing. So I drive through. I drop off the product. Now I have to turn around and drive back through them again. And so I drive by, and they're hooting and hollering and all this stuff, chicky and all this. And you know what? I did not throw out one molecule of fear and just went through because I'm in my own power.
Well, I understand what you're saying.
Tried
because
to rob
they say
me.
There's only two choices, fear or love. And so which one are you going to choose?
No, I didn't do love.
When you
I
boil
did not
it down
do
like
love.
that?
I did power. Unconditional
okay, well, that's different.
power. What's different?
So
because
we're
taught unconditional love that has conditions. No, there were no conditions. The conditions are I'm in charge, and I had unconditional power. Power is really who we are, but in duality, it's not. So in power is different than force. Force is duality. Force, force, force. I didn't allow their force because I know how to use the field. And your field is your aura, electromagnetic, bioenergy, whatever. It's your field. So remember, what you project. So what I was projecting was my power, not for control, not for manipulation, not in force. And they recognized who I am, and nothing happened. They just waved me on.
Right.
Incredible.
I understand what you're saying. It's just that I think
teach
there's
this.
a couple of places here that people are going to have questions. So I'm trying to be the voice of my audience here and ask you some more questions that will give them understanding about the kind of thing that you offer in the Anshara Method, and also with abundance, because that's another great field that you're involved with and our audience is very interested in. So let's move to abundance if we can and talk a little bit about how you help your clients reach the abundance that they want in their lives.
This is a perfect example. I was working with this couple that had a family-owned business, and they have techies. These are techie guys, right? And techie guys don't sell. Oh, my God, I'm a technical person. I would never sell. Ooh. And so I after I worked with the husband and wife and some of their people that worked with them and their family, they asked me to work with their group. So I walk in, it's 98% men in there, right? And so I could see, and their arms are folded and whatever. And then they're going, oh, crap, here comes a motivational speaker, some crap. I'm not a motivational speaker, trust me. The motivational only lasts like 3 hours, if that. And so I walk in, and they're all sitting. Now, this is in their space. This is their business, not mine. So I walk in, and they're all giving me the, whatever, and it's 8:30 in the morning. So I look around and smile, and I go, oh, my God, there's so much testosterone in this room. I just cannot calm down and get grounded. So would all of you guys settle down? And they started laughing because I made the connection. And so I worked with them through the process of abundance. And what does abundance mean? It's not just money. That's the byproduct. I taught them to get out of the outcome so the income comes in. The income means results. Do you know that their sales tripled in less than 3 months? You know why? Because their techie people turned into recommenders. They recommended, they didn't sell. So they go out to the client and say, we have this and you've got this system. But you know what? We recommend if you did this, you'd have more options. Were they selling or were they recommending?
Big difference.
And who got more money? Isn't that abundance?
It is.
Certainly works that way.
Yes, or abundance of health or abundance of connection. So I teach people stay out of the outcome so the income comes in, which is results. So even when I'm working with someone new or myself, I got here with $50 and didn't know anybody. So I had an idea, this is what I would do, and this is what I would do in the moment to get there. So I might set a projection when I'm working with someone. They'll say, I'm going to start a new business in September 2021. Okay, so now we have a guideline. That's it. Stay out of September. This is only, February. And so we have to take the steps. But what happens if it happened in August or the middle of September or whatever it is? So stay out of the outcomes, so the results, and then you take the required steps, and I get them out of the language of wanty needy. I wanty needy this. I don't wanty needy anything, but I do have action. This is what I require, and this is what I desire. Desire means to sire or birth, and this is what I deserve, to serve myself first. That is not selfish. It's centered in self. I mean, I'm a pilot. I'm not current, but what does the pilot say? Take the oxygen first so everybody has a chance. But no, I'm not going to take. I'll give it to everybody else, and then we'll all go down. So, you have to give the oxygen to those who do not have the ability to do that, like the children or whatever. So everything we've been taught, everything, this is not judging it, everything in duality we've been taught is a lie. And that's why we're in a screwed-up mess, and oops, I did it again.
What do you think?
Isn't that just the coolest?
What do you think prevents people from having abundance in their lives? Have you found certain characteristics or certain choices that people are making over and over again that produce a lack in their lives?
Because there are only 3 fears on this planet, identified it years and years and years ago. 3 fears: self-judgment, self-lack, and self-takeaway. And no one is really afraid of success. I mean, no one's afraid of failure. They're afraid of success. Because if they're successful, they have to say they're good. And they are. That's why they're successful. Look at Steve Jobs. He got all that money and all that stuff, and he died of liver cancer. I think it was liver. Look at the first 4 letters of the word liver. Live. That's why language is so important. I've actually worked with people, I didn't even know their language, and they brought an interpreter, and guess what? We got to the core in 10 minutes. And then that began, once you get, it's like getting to the corner, and you get to the corner or the core and say, I can go back down the dumper and do this again, or I can go in new directions. So I will say to you, we've worked together or whatever, and let's say you're walking down the street and someone taps you on the shoulder and you turn around and they have an opportunity. Are you going backwards, or are you going in a new direction?
Well, speaking of new directions, you have a wonderful technique that I saw on one of your videos, which is Prosperity Box. So talk to us about that.
Well, years and years and years ago, I used to do these things where we made vision boards. I loved them. But the thing is, they took up a lot of room, and I just tapped into this idea of putting together a prosperity box. And I actually do that every year, and I have intention sheets. I tell people when I send them out, make many copies, because you're writing it in your handwriting. So it can be a prosperity box of drawing a partner, or it could be a business partner, or it could be health. And so you can have as many. And the wonderful thing about prosperity boxes, they're portable. And so this is your office, say this is my office door, and in my office door to the left-hand corner in Feng Shui, that is the prosperity corner. So you would put it in that corner, or it could be the left-hand corner of your house or your office building. And then if it's about a relationship, you would put it in the right-hand corner. And if it's a relationship, I usually have them place the prosperity box in the right-hand corner of their bedroom, if that's what they're looking for, is a personal, loving relationship. But when you write down on the intention sheets specifically, and I say be as specific as you can, and you know it works, the more specific that you are about something, the more specific your heart, which is your most expanded resonance, and your consciousness begin to create it. So in this process that I have the Anshara, I teach people how to be God. Isn't that fabulous? I have to call it godness, or I don't want stuff burned on my front lawn. So this is part of it, of what I teach. I actually have graphics. So Yahweh is God, right? That's the name of God, Yahweh, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
And I always said, and this is part of that prosperity of recognizing your God, not a God. We got too many gods, gods on here. So this is the process of becoming God. You cannot not create. And I will tell people you can create a business, a relationship, you can even create a fart. But you're creating it. Isn't that funny? So this is how you become
true. We are
God.
the creators. Isn't that part of the lie that we've been told, Sherry, over and over again, that we are not creators? Isn't that the biggest
God,
lie?
that is so ridiculous. And that's why. So now I'll go to the prosperity box, and I have a diagram. So we create through our female side. This is not gender, audience. The female side is your creative. It doesn't matter what the gender is. So you create. Then you utilize your brain as an organizer. And now you got the brain working together. And so you organize through your right brain what you're creating. And then through your body, the body is the implementer, the body of Christ. It has nothing to do with Jesus. He was a nice guy, really liked him. But the Christ means crystal clear in Greek, or Messiah. And it's to save yourself from yourself in these duality programs. So through your body you implement. Through your left brain you organize what you're going to manifest, manufacture, and then through your heart, through your hands, and the Hebrew alphabet of hands is Kaf, and life is in the palm of my hands, and then I actualize. So it's create, organize, 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 implement, organize, 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 manifest, and through your heart you actualize. That is being the name of God. And that's what both of you did. You created, implemented, manifested, and actualized this radio show. And
right.
You didn't do it through your head. You did it through your heart, and that you would like to share. That is being God. I call it godness, the essence of God, not a God.
Right.
And then the prosperity box, you are writing down what the intent is to create, and you can be very specific. Cool.
So you can put a lot of detail into it, and then you just put the cover on the box and forget about it, or did you go back and visit
you can
the box,
add to it. That's why
do?
I tell people that if you'd like to add to it, you can.
So you can add to it. But there's a lot of people who say
all year long.
There's a lot of people who we've had on the show that say write it down and then put it somewhere and let it cook and simmer on its own without you obsessing about it, basically. So how do you recommend people work with this?
Well, you can add to it. Like way back when I first started this. I mean, this is even before I wrote my first. This is after I wrote my first book, and then I started. And then I remember one year saying, I'd like to write some more books. I'm not sure how many, but I would like to write some more. And guess what happened? I'm on my 6th book right now. I didn't obsess about it. And when I get done with this book, I'm going to start my next book about me, and the title of it is I Can't Make This Shit Up.
Well, you're certainly having fun with all of it, which is great. Can you share with us some abundance stories of people that you've worked with that have either used your prosperity box concept or just have worked with you personally and have been able to break through and create more of what they want?
Yes, and this happened. I'm going to go back 10 years, at least 10 years. And this guy that I know, and he's one of my clients, and he is in California. And so he was here for the meditation, visiting, and so I get a call from him in March, and he goes, Sherry, I've got a problem. He sounds real serious. He goes, I've got a problem. I go, what is it? He said, I can't believe it. I have manifested and actualized everything in this first 3 months. What should I do? I go, get busy. Start writing some more stuff. But he got really focused about what. Now he wasn't like obsessing, but because he wrote it down. See, we use the word because as an excuse. I can't do this because, but the word because means you're because. And so the items that he wrote down is exactly what he created in like a 3-month, 4-month period of time. Because
Can you give us an example of what he created?
A new house.
That's a good one.
A relationship.
What else?
A new position.
So he hit all the categories, basically. That's good.
Yes. And then continued.
Oh, my goodness.
Because it was being more specific without being anal. I call the first chakra, say I teach 13 chakras, which is in alignment to get into the 13 chakras, is to expand the DNA. See, because the ones who control have 12 strands of DNA in a connector. And once you reach that, you really don't have to have it anymore. And so it's like checkmate. When you checkmate, there's nothing they can do about it because you're resonating and you've expanded your field of consciousness and you're in your own power. And so when we are doing this, and the more specific you are, I'm not talking about being anal. That's duality's first chakra, analyze, oh, my God. And so when you are clear and when you write it down, it's pretty fun. And you don't even sometimes have to be specific, but the specifics will start to show up.
That's always helpful when that happens.
Yes.
Definitely.
And I remember how many times doctors turned me down in the beginning and thought I was nuts until the transplants happened about cellular memory. I went to get a checkup today because, it's part of what you have to do in insurance. You got to get checkups. And I was talking to this one doctor, and I said, and he goes, what are you here for? I said, well, I'm here today because this is part of my checkup. And it was a new doctor to me. But I said, you know what? Are you going to listen to me, or are you just going to hear what you're used to hearing from patients? You should have seen the look on his face.
I bet.
He was startled.
And I said, so how you listen is going to depend. So I teach people how to listen. And when you listen to yourself, you're not hearing through the left computer brain. You're listening through your body. And he smiled at me and he said, I'm listening. He said, have you seen your primary care doctor? I said, no, not in 2 years. And he goes, why? I go, she's lovely, but she doesn't listen. So I go through the nurse practitioner, to do this because this is part of what I'm supposed to do. I'm being compliant. And he said, well, why don't you go back to her? I said, because she's deaf. And you should have seen the look on his face.
I bet so.
And he said, okay, so what can I do for you to get this on the road? I said, the fact is you're listening.
Yeah, because we have a very broken medical care system.
Oh, terrible.
We do have one
and
of the
I work
best.
with a lot of doctors.
We do have one of the best. I have to say this: one of the best crisis response type of medicine in the world. I think we're very good at that. However, when it comes to chronic illness or mysterious illnesses, which a lot of them are, there isn't the quality of health care and compassion that we really deserve. So when you're teaching people whether to be abundant or to be healthy, it's very empowering. It puts the power back into the people so that they can make better choices about how they want to address the current stumbling blocks in their life, wherever they come from. Now, in your work with people, you find that some of these blocks are coming from other dimensions or other lifetimes that are happening simultaneously. How do you clear those?
It's really very easy because it sounds hard, but it isn't. I'm no woo-woo. I'm telling you, I go right for the core. So it's a pattern. And so when we get into that loop, that figure 8 loop, sideways and straight, and then down in the DNA matrix of duality, when you get to identify that core. So I'll go back to some of the people where I found them, through Wikipedia and the timelines. Do you know that many of their issues in their tissues were the same? And this is one. This lady comes to me one day and she said, you know what, Sherry? I'm afraid to die. I go, you are? You're afraid to die? She said, yes. I said, oh, by the way, do you believe in other lifetimes? And she said, I do. Well, how many do you suppose you had? And she said, well, at least 50. I said, honey, you're a professional at dying. Now, how about this lifetime you live?
Good point.
Isn't that fabulous?
That's a very good point. Yes.
And here's another, like an example. This lady comes to me, and she's a corporate woman, and she comes in, and her arms are all folded, and she's like huffy. And so I'm laughing to myself inside. I'm going, oh, boy, this is a good one. And she said, you know what? I've never changed. I said, oh, you. So I go to the Socratic method. That's the old Socratic method of sales in the corporate world, and I know she'd get it. So I said, so let me get this. What you're saying is that you've never changed. She said, that's right. I've never changed. So I smiled and I said, you know what? I am so impressed with your mother's vajayjay. Because if you came out with that hairstyle, that suit and those high heels, your mother's vajayjay rocks. And my dear, you're somewhere between diapers and Depends. In underwear, do you think you haven't changed? And she burst out laughing. What's the best medicine? Humor. And she went, oh, my God, that is so dumb. I go, I know. Isn't it fabulous? And why did her friend send her to me? Because she always said, I never change. We can't do this. They'd say, let's, these are her girlfriends. And they would go do stuff. And they'd say, let's do it. Nope, I'm not doing that. Or, no, I can't do it. Or whatever, because I've only done it this way before. So wasn't that a good line?
Yeah, I mean, it's important. What you're pointing out is to have a level of flexibility with everything, not get stuck in your ways, not get stuck in the loop. So all of that makes a lot of sense. Do you have any other kind of techniques like the prosperity box that you can recommend to people that they can use at home?
Yes, they could go. I have books. If you go to my website or Amazon, one of my best books, this was written, I don't know how many years ago, and it's called And the Point is Beyond Duality. But I do have on my website, which is sherryanshara.com. If you go to sherryanshara.com, you can download my free ebook. And it's called Getting Your Answers in 10 Minutes. Is that cool? Getting Your Answers in 10 minutes. And it really is the beginning of a progressive process. See, I don't like processes because you keep doing the same thing over and over. I like a progressive process. So that you are really experiencing. So people say, Sherry, what is my purpose for being here? I go, which one? Which purpose? You have many. But the real purpose is to experience the experiences that you came here, that you created to experience. So here's an example from my standpoint. When I was 30 years old, I told my mother and sister, who was like 12 years older, like my mom. She was my mom. My mother was very formal, my mother. I told them I was going to learn how to fly an airplane. And they said, you're too old and you're a girl. So not only did I fly an airplane, I bought an airplane. Oh, boy.
Well, definitely showed her.
But people said, how did you buy an airplane? I don't know. How'd you buy a car? You go down to the showroom, you give them X amount of dollars, and once a month you get a bill. Isn't that what you do?
Yeah,
But see,
exactly.
we make things complicated that aren't. And we make the complications that way so we have an excuse so we can say, I can't do this because.
Right.
Now,
so
I've had two
the
broken
prosperity
backs.
box sounds like a lot of fun,
Mm-hmm.
and it looked like a lot of fun when you were doing that. And so that's a really easy one that people can do at home for themselves. And so let's go through the steps of that, because I want to make sure. I know I've had some text questions here from people. What do you put in the box other than your written intention?
Well, you can have either a red envelope or a feng shui envelope, which is, they usually have Chinese things on it. And so in the red box, and I have boxes. I have one box that's got stripes, and one's got love on it, and I have one that's kind of Chinese-y looking, but it could be anything. It could be a heart box. And so what you have to gather up is a feng shui mirror, and it could be square. And you can get these mirrors at Michael's or, I forget what the other store is. And they're like maybe $6 in a little package, and they can be, square, heart-shaped, octagonal, and then one square or rectangle of red felt, and you can get that for like 20 cents or 50 cents at Michael's. And then 2 red envelopes, because one you keep and, you give one away. And then you have 9 quarters and 9 flat, the quarter rolls, that you put in. And then you get these are white bands for $20 bills. They're white and purple. And then you put those in. And there's specific reason for the numbers. And 18 $1 bills. 8 and 1 is, equals 9 God reality. 9 quarters. The 9 quarter rolls, again, that's 18 and 9. 1 is, it makes God reality. And then you write your intentions. And you can put them in the box, or you can put them in the envelope that you exchange with someone. And the exchange means the exchange of energy and that they are supporting. And so I'm going to explain one more thing here. Energy is only a byproduct. That's all it is. Energy is a byproduct. That's it, of either consciousness or duality belief systems. And then you place your intentions in the red envelope with it, and you receive. And then you assemble all this together, and then you put it in the left-hand corner. But if it's for a relationship, you put it in the right-hand corner of your bedroom. And you always put the red felt down, you put the mirror on top, and then the box on top of that with all the goodies in it.
That sounds
Isn't that
like
cool?
It's easy to do, and it's also fun. So that's a good one.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
And the fact is, you can move. And what happens, say in the middle of your year, you intended that you were going to get a new house or a new place to live. Well, it's easier to move the intention box than it is a big board. Now, I'm not against doing, the boards, but this makes it more easier. It's more flexible, and it's easier to add to.
It is. That's right. I like it a lot. Don't you, PK? I want to make one.
Most definitely.
Oh,
I was
yes.
thinking now, when you're talking about the right side of the room, are you talking from the doorway?
From the doorway. Always the doorway.
Some people.
So it could be the doorway of the house, or it could be the doorway of a room, depending.
Okay.
So in my office, the doorway of the room to my left-hand corner is where I put the prosperity box in.
That's fine.
But
and mine,
if you're
that's
going
where
to
my
have
computer is.
Yeah, and put it next to the computer, on top of it, or under it, or something.
Definitely.
Or next to it.
Interesting. You're so full of so many good ideas and things to think about.
Oh, I'm so glad. Don't think, feel. I teach people how not to thinky, and feel. So this is Sherryism. I feel, so I cannot thinky, because sometimes we thinky out of stuff. But we'll talk ourselves out of stuff.
That's
all
very
the time.
true.
Yes, that does happen. Now, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what PK and I were talking to you about before we got on the air, which is your property. You have a very unique property, and you were saying it's an acre of land with a lot of vortices, and actually one of our previous guests who told us about you, Craig, told us about all the orbs. So talk to us about your land and who and what is there. Very interesting.
Well, I have 18 vortices, and sometimes I have people get together in an evening, and we go out and take pictures. And so you'll see all kinds of them, not just orbs, but you can see other universes. You can actually walk in to some of these, say, a vortex, and you actually disappear. People can't see you, but you know where you are. It's really spectacular. Honestly, it's so fun. So but when it warms up again, I might, have some people come over and do it again. I know Craig was just blown away. We had so much fun. I'm not kidding you. So I have pictures of me with at least 1 million orbs. But there's also, you can see wormholes. You can take pictures of other universes. You can take pictures of wormholes forming or going through. There's all kinds of different beings. It's really quite spectacular. And when I first moved on this property in 2004, I believe it might have been 2005, I was laying on my, quote, healing bed in my, quote, healing room. And I thought, you know what, this would be so interesting. I wonder what it would be like to open a vortex on this property. Because I actually did one in Sedona years ago. But anyway, I won't tell you about that. So anyway, I'm laying there, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to lay here, and I'm going to see if I can open a vortex, but it has to be correct. The people have to be correct, not right or wrong, and no duality. I don't want any duality. And so I'm laying there, and I'm just feeling one. All of a sudden, I hear a voice that says, "How did you do that?" Really clear in my language, because that's one of the rules. You speak in my language or don't show up. And I went, what? And I started laughing. How did you do that? And those were some of the first that came through. And I actually have on my computer 2 groups of beings. They're blue, and I call them the blue and gold people, that came into my class in 2008, and we have pictures of them.
Well, now, of course, everybody wants to know where they can see these pictures, and we also talked a little bit about that. So we hope that you'll be putting those up again, because people would love to see that.
Well, I'll see what I can do, because but I did have this. It was called orblistener.com, but I didn't have somebody to do that for me, because I've got a bazillion pictures to put on there and reactivate that again. But I just didn't have the bandwidth, because there's just me and what I'm doing. So maybe there's somebody
if you have a chance
that might volunteer to do that.
If you have a chance to send a few of the photos over to PK and myself, we'll post them so that people can see them.
Oh, sure, I can. I've got
page.
like all kinds of them. I'll probably have to take snapshots of them, but and find a way to get that reactivated, because it was just unbelievable, and I have even more. So it's really delightful when people come over and take pictures, because they will show up and they'll interact and they'll get up with you. I even have a picture of someone with a camera on a pod, taking pictures of an orb that posed. I can't make this up. I have them.
Well, the nice part, I'm tickled to death, because I've been invited to your property, and so as soon as it gets warm enough, I'm taking you up on that offer, dear heart.
Oh, my God, you absolutely can do that. You would just love it. In the evening, it's just spectacular, because everything, and now I'll throw it out. There's always, I never said this on the air. I never said that there's ships above my house. I'm never going to say that.
Oh, okay, don't you say it.
I will never say it.
We'll check it out, but we won't say it.
We won't say it. It's time for everybody to wake up. That's what I am. I'm just an alarm clock. No more awakenings. We've had more awakenings than Carter has pills on this planet since blah. It's just time to wake up and get really conscious and be who you are. because who you are counts. It's time to become real humans. Now, I don't mean this in a snide, smart alecky way. It's time to become real humans and not being controlled and manipulated through the left computer brain through the duality programs. And that's the best part, is when I assist people to do that. And that's what's going to be about in that new book. But I have, books on Amazon, and you can get a free one, getting your answers in 10 minutes.
That's great. Now, Sherry, when you talk about the vortices and the portals and the orbs, what's so interesting to me is that people come to your place, they have a positive experience. Because we have heard stories on this show of people that have walked through or even started to walk through some of these things, and they get a bad feeling and they back out, or they go through and they're never seen again. So
no, that does not happen here. Remember, they have to fill out an application. No, I'm very clear. It's all about resonance. We've never had anything like that happen. I teach people how to remote view. I teach people how to bilocate. I teach people to clear themselves. We can all do this. This human body is made to do that, to be God, not a God. And we have been programmed that we're less, and I just can't buy into that anymore. Not anymore. And that's why I teach what I do, and that's why I'm looking for a group of people to come together with me to create this institute, or whatever you want to call it, to teach this so I can leave it as a legacy, because it's teachable and it works. I've never had it not. I will give you an example. One of my dear clients that lives on the East Coast, his father does not believe in any of this, none, and he flatlined 18 times. And so I bilocated to him, and the next day they thought he was never going to make it. And he doesn't know it, but we did a third-party intervention only because his father's expanded awareness, there's no higher self and lower self, agreed. And now this week he's going to come home from the hospital.
Wonderful.
Fabulous.
And only he and his wife, my client's mothers, know that. Because we are far more, so much more, than we have ever been taught, because all the belief systems, not judging it, on this planet are all lies. Humans, it's time to stand up and become a real species in a non-dualistic, that is what the new earth about, the new universe, whatever. Otherwise, we're just stuck. And there will be some people who will stay stuck, and that's okay.
Right.
Because
well,
it's in the DNA.
Right,
it's in the alien DNA, if you want to call it alien, in the interloper's DNA. And that's what I'm writing about in my new book. I don't even know what I'm going to call it yet.
Well, when you talk about
but I have 38 chapters done.
When you talk about interlopers, what exactly are you talking about? Do you have specific species that you're talking about, or who are these interlopers?
There's many species, many of them that have interloped in this duality universe. That the reptilians brought in here, and they came in through the Pleiades, the second set. And there's many more than 7 sisters, really. I mean, we don't even know the history. So I will just tell you one more funny thing. This will make you laugh. When I was at this physicist conference 18 years ago, almost 19, I was talking to these physicists, and they were talking about black holes, and that they discovered them. And I said, really, sir, I think that's really wonderful, but you didn't discover black holes. They have always been there. And I said, and I know you're going to tell everybody the event horizon. See, they don't know I know this, right? And that when it goes down the event horizon, it never comes back. And I said, you know what actually the black holes are? And they said, what? I said, it's a toilet. You flush it, the stuff goes down. But eventually it's going to back up, because people on the other end of that are not going to put up with this shit. And guess what? 2 years ago, they saw stuff coming out of the black holes. I go, but I don't have their emails. Like to say, I told you so.
We've also heard that black holes are basically a way to get from one universe to the other.
Yes, and there's black holes, and there's wormholes, and vortices. But they're all connected, and that's why I cannot accept a law, a rule, because the only rule is there are no rules. And when we make these kind of statements, that's actually stifling. And one thing that Einstein, not wronging Einstein, but one of the things Einstein never talked about is the idea of the negative. See, we've been taught negative is bad and positive is good. So you know what I can say to you, PK, I'm positive you're negative. That doesn't make any sense. It's like, what? Or right or wrong. I always say, is it correct for me or not? If it's correct, fine, but it might be correct for me and not for you, or correct for you and not for me. But that's okay. We don't have to argue about it.
Right.
I mean, we have a plethora of way of creating, and you can't create. You cannot not create. It's impossible. Whatever it is, but we think creation is paintings or drawings but no, it's every moment.
So, Sherry, what do you make of what you see our country and our world going through right now? How do you see it?
Well, it's the same thing we went for, except there's only a couple of added things is the technology, and they are able to put emotions into AIs that they feed off of, and you already addressed that. And so this is about one word, depopulation. They're not letting the new kids in. They're killing people through the pandemic. In every way, they're I can't say his name, but it sounds like, when you open up a gate, and it rhymes with that, and they're buying up farmland, and they're going to grow food, and they're only going to allow a certain amount to stay alive, but they can imprint. And so we already have AIs on this planet. They're famous people because they have followings. So I never said that. I never said this.
Okay.
It's now up to the human race to become conscious and let go of all of the belief systems. But this is the issue in the tissue. People would rather be right and die than be correct and change.
Very powerful words.
Yes, it's time for people to really get it. So I'm hoping that people listening tonight will understand what you're talking about and be able to start using it in their lives. So do you work with people individually? Is that how you would, like if somebody came to you and said, I need help with healing or abundance, you would schedule private sessions with them via Skype or phone or something like that?
Yes, they can come in person. I've never stopped seeing people. I have VIP days, half of VIP days. They come in from other parts of the country. I just had someone here from Connecticut, and we did 13 hours in a week. And I can tell you the difference. And I work individually, in person, or over the phone. It's the same. Over 20% of my clients I've never met in person, but I'm able to bilocate to them. They know I'm there. We have conversations, and I'm with them. And so the body is the intelligence, and that's what I connect to the body. Because the computer brain, the left computer brain, is just ridiculous. And that's why I assist people. I have techniques on how to create left brain, right brain, that it's connected to each other. So I developed all these techniques over the years, and it doesn't take brain science. It's really easy. The body knows. And so that's why I love working with individuals. Or as groups, we can do it in groups, and I'm looking at ways now to put some of the courses I have online. Probably in March, I'm going to roll out my the Ascension course again on activating the 13 chakras and to get out of it. And the first chakra is at the feet. That's why I could never get with the 7 chakra system. It didn't make any sense. You're sitting on it. What happens to your legs and arms? We have to incorporate the whole body. That's what corporeal means, the whole corporate person of you. You are a corporation. I'm not talking about business, but you are incorporating all of this. So I take the language of wordology as your biology and make sense out of it.
Well,
and that's what everybody
wonderful.
says. It's exciting and it's fun.
Again, if you want to contact Sherry, then you can go directly to her website, which is Sherry, spelled with an S, H-E-R-R-Y, Anshara, ANSHARA, .com. And you can contact Sherry there and set up your own session if you'd like, or send an email, ask questions, etc. And Sherry, I can't thank you enough. We have been really looking forward to this, both PK and I, having you on the show because we know you'd give a very unique perspective on everything, which you have definitely done tonight. So thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you so much for having me as a guest. I'm so grateful. I'm great-filled and grateful in gratitude and thankfulness for being here.
Oh,
well, we enjoyed it immensely. And I'm looking forward to our getting
pleasure.
together in the very near future, dear.
Oh, I can't wait. We'll have so much fun.
But you better bring your camera, PK.
Yes,
I definitely not a doubt in my mind.
Well, again, next week, everybody, we are going to have Daryl Sims with us, the alien hunter. He is coming back to share the latest and greatest on what he's been finding on his explorations throughout the world. Don't miss it. And until then, we'll see you on the Blue Highway. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another radio adventure with Supernatural.